What?
It's time now for My Two Favorite Librarians. Brought to you by Copper Tree Boutique in Dales Grand Market, located in beautiful, historic downtown Amherst.
Hi, this is My Two Favorite Librarians. I'm Denise Corey.
I'm Chantel Taylor, and today we're talking about Freedom to Read Week.
So this whole week is Freedom to Read Week, and the point of it is to make sure that we don't censor books. Did I put that well? I did not put that well.
I actually like the Canadian sort of version better. In the United States, they call it like Banned or Challenged Book Week. Do they have a Freedom to Read? Am I making that up?
No, they have Banned Books Week.
Okay. So I like Freedom to Read. It's more positive than Banned or Challenged.
Mm-hmm. But it is focusing on the same thing.
Yes, it is. So one of my favorite stories about a challenged book is from 2014. And the Toronto Public Library received a complaint from a parent to ban the book Hop on Pop by Dr. Seuss. And the complainant, and I'm reading from the article, the complainant said all copies of the book should be taken out of the library because its text encourages children to use violence against their fathers. The complainant also wanted an apology from the librarians to all the fathers in the Toronto area and for the library to pay damages resulting from the book.
How much damages was he seeking? Did it say in the article?
It doesn't give us a dollar figure. It just says damages. Mm-hmm. So the library, of course, said no, and they said it's a humorous and well-loved children's book designed to engage children while teaching them, and it doesn't actually tell them to hop on pop.
I almost wonder if it's a tongue-in-cheek, like if it was a real complaint.
I don't know that I want to get into the politics of what I think is behind that letter.
But there are a lot of books that people complain about. And
a lot of children's books and teen books.
Kind of the point in the library is that we have a little bit of everything for everybody. And you're not going to agree with everything, but it's not up to us to decide what you read.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there are lots of things that I think, I don't want to buy that, but we do because somebody wants it. Somebody's going to read it.
Every book that I like is, Chantel says, I don't want to buy that.
No, I'm not talking, I don't want to specifically, talk about things. I mean, we could maybe talk about Snooki. We both felt like, do we have to buy another Snooki book? And when it fell apart, we were like, do we need to really replace this Snooki book?
Yeah, but there are a lot of books in the library I don't agree with.
Also, just because I don't want to buy it doesn't mean I don't think people should have the right to read it.
Mm-hmm. So I see that you have a big list of things, so I'm going to let you go wild.
So my book club has actually just done banned and challenged books, and we're recording this in advance, so I don't know what people have picked. So I've been looking through a lot of these lists to hand out to my book club, and I've picked a lot of the kids ones or the teen ones because they're the ones that people get the most, I think, angry about, because I've been listening to a lot of podcasts where there's a lot of reactions, and it's like sometimes the most bizarrely horrible things happen because of we must protect the children.
Have you heard what is happening in Missouri?
Yes.
Missouri has a law that it's not passed yet. It's before Senate, Congress. I don't know how Missouri...
It would be their state government.
Yes. I don't know how they pass laws in Missouri.
State legislature, let's say that.
Oh! So there is a law before their state legislature that says that libraries will need to have parent advisory groups, and the parent advisory groups can make a decision as to what can be in the library, and if the librarian refuses to remove it, they can lose their state funding, and the librarian can go to jail. And the reason this is important is because think about kids in your community, because it's primarily addressing children and teen books.
Protect the children.
Yeah. And think about kids who are curious about their sexuality. They don't know. Maybe, they're questioning, or they know and they're LGBT plus. So that kind of information will get removed. Information on health, like lots of health information would get removed, and not just sexual health, but all kinds of health. Information on abuse Like, there are a lot of books that could just disappear.
Well, let's talk about some of the books I have on this list and why
Yes.
they've been challenged. So right off the top, Captain Underpants by Dave Pilkey.
The books you're reading about are challenged in Canada.
Some are Canada, some are the U.S. Excuse me, I've been going back and forth with both lists. So some of these show up on a lot of different lists.
Right.
So Captain Underpants, written by Dave Pilkey, it's kind of a graphic novel, and it was challenged because it was perceived as encouraging disruptive behavior.
Not because he's running around with his underpants on.
Nope, disruptive behavior.
Okay.
So a little more of a serious one, 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher, which is now a series on Netflix. It was banned and challenged and restricted for addressing teen suicide. And it is a very graphic book. And I think Netflix has actually altered in the replaying the scene where she commits suicide. Trigger warning for all you people out there.
But it's an important topic that might save somebody's life.
The Hunger Games, challenged for sexually explicit and unsuitable for the age group and for violence. Twilight by Stephanie Myers was challenged for religious viewpoint and violence. Gossip Girls, challenged for being sexually explicit, homosexuality, offensive language, and unsuited to the age group.
I never read Gossip Girls. I only watched the TV show.
Well, the TV show would be fairly similar-ish to, like, you know, these were very wealthy, perhaps not the best supervised group of children who were doing drugs and who were doing things well beyond their age group. And that is a thing that's happening out there. The Chocolate War by Robert Cormier. It was challenged for nudity, offensive language, being sexually explicit and unsuitable for the age group. My Mom is Having a Baby, a kid's month-to-month guide to pregnancy. It was challenged for nudity, sex education, being sexually explicit and unsuitable for the age group. Now,
So-
I read the Amazon reviews for this
Okay.
because I was like, okay, I need to read what some people are saying now. It shows you month to month what happens when mom's pregnant, but it also shows you graphically conception, and I mean visually. And a lot of parents were like, that wasn't quite what I was looking for. And my 4-year-old, it was too much information for my 4-year-old, which is fine.
It's up to the parent to make that
Exactly.
decision. Yes.
Exactly.
It's not up to me to make that decision.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter has been challenged every year since the first book came out.
And it's challenged because there are spells in it which we could learn and start doing witchcraft.
That is one of the reasons it is challenged.
In the Night Kitchen by Marie Sendak, who wrote Where the Wild Things Are. This one is nudity, offensive language, and sexually explicit. And I think it's
So,
been a long time. I think the little boy is naked.
The little boy runs through naked at one point.
Yeah.
It's a cartoon or, you know, like a drawing. And, I mean, small children often run around naked.
It's a thing that happens.
And sexually explicit is not real. I mean, that sounds like it's gross, and it's not gross.
His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. So that is the Golden Compass. That's the series is called His Dark Materials. Political viewpoint, religious viewpoint, violence.
I loved those books. I thought they were really good.
I enjoyed those books too. The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. So that was deemed to be anti-cop. And there was use of drugs. So again, a lot of things for kids that people don't want their kids exposed to. And that's fine. If you don't want your kids exposed to those things, that is absolutely your right. But it doesn't mean that everybody doesn't have the right to read something.
Yeah, my mom let me read pretty much whatever I wanted, really.
And we don't censor people. I know a lot of times I've been on the desk and a kid has come up and said, my mom wants to know if you'll let me check this out. And it's like, yeah, Mom, I will let him check that out. And I'm not picking on moms. Could be dad.
Or grandparents.
Or whatever. Yeah, exactly. It's parents' job to decide what their kids get to read.
Yes. That's why it's important for you to come to the library with your kid and go through and see what they're reading and make sure that it matches your family's moral code. But it's really up to other families to decide what their children get to read.
Exactly.
And as for adults, well, we're adults. We should be able to decide what we want to read.
And of course, it isn't just children's material. Children are sort of the most contentious, and because they're in schools with children a lot of the time, parents don't want them in their schools. But a lot of adult books have been banned or challenged. The Handmaid's Tale.
Yes.
By Margaret Atwood.
It's very distressing.
To Kill a Mockingbird. Mark Twain. What's the name of the book?
Huckleberry Finn.
Huckleberry Finn, thank you. The Bluest Eyes.
So lots of banned books out there. So what I would suggest that you do, you can go on to the freedomtoread.ca website, and they have their list of the 100 most challenged books of the last 10 years. Take a look at those. Maybe check some out. Read a challenged book.
You might be surprised at the number of picture books that are on that list.
And I will post that website to our Twitter feed.
Okay.
And I'm looking at Chantal because I need her to remind me to do that.
Okay.
What are you reading?
So I am reading The Vanishing Stair by Maureen Johnson, and I started this book before an audiobook and just couldn't get into it. So this is the second book in a trilogy, and the third book is out now, and it's something The Hand.
It's not called Something the Hand.
No, it's called The Hand, and there's another part to it, but I can't remember what it is.
Something the Hand.
So I read the first book called Truly Devious back in the summer, and it's the story of a girl. She's going to this fancy private school that's for like kids with like sort of specialties. So like if you wanted to be an actor, they can focus your education on that. She wants to be in the FBI, so they can focus her education on like...
Ooh, that is fancy.
It's very fancy, and it's a very specialized school. And so there's the modern stream and there's the historical stream. It was founded by this man in the 30s, and his wife and daughter were kidnapped by Truly Devious, and the crime was never solved. And so this girl wants to go to the school so she can solve the crime. Someone was convicted of the crime, but couldn't possibly have done it. And I really love the historical parts, and I don't care about the modern parts. And I know they go together, and Maureen Johnson is a fantastic writer. She wrote a really good series about like kind of a ghost Jack the Ripper that's haunting this sort of like girls' school in London in modern day, and it was really fantastic. So I'm giving it another try, and I'm reading it this time instead of listening to see if I can like go through more.
Because sometimes that makes a difference.
It does, because it means I can skim things. Like I can read a little faster through the modern parts and really take my time and absorb through the historical parts.
So I have just finished a book that you have been raving about.
Oh, yes.
I have just finished The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and it was fantastic.
It was absolutely my favorite book for last year, and I don't want to give away any spoilers, but there was one aspect of, and I don't know if we've actually talked about this at the time, but there was one little aspect of the sort of finish that I didn't like, but it was, the rest of the story was well worth that little...
And it's really, really interesting because it's set in Hollywood in the 50s, 60s, up to the 80s. Evelyn Hugo is kind of an amalgamation of Elizabeth Taylor,
Rita Hayworth, Ava Gardner. Like it's kind of all these starlets, and she has different pieces of sort of these tragic bits that they have.
Yeah, so it's like they've kind of put, but it's so well written that you find yourself looking up Evelyn Hugo to find out.
Like, I know. I want to see those dresses. I want to see those movies.
So then
I want to punch some of those husbands in the face.
Yeah, she really does go through 7 husbands.
Yeah.
There was parts too where I was like, well, I wonder if this is based on this actress and this is based on that actress. So it's really interesting. It's a good book. Your book club is doing it?
My book club is doing it in March, yes.
Okay.
I hope they enjoy it as much as you did. I'm surprised you liked it, but it was a good book.
Because you and I almost like none of the same books ever. If you and I both like a book, it's a phenomenal book.
It is. And I will say, I'll be interested if you go on and read another book, because I was talking about it with our friend Jen, and she loved her next book, which was Daisy Jones and the Six. And I couldn't stand it because it was all like interview questions. So the whole, like, there would be a section where you get some like real time, and then like 5 chapters would be like all these just like paragraphs from people. And I was like, no, I'm not reading this.
You're so very strong in your ideas about reading things. Okay, so what's on at the library?
All right, so Denise's Lunchtime Lit Book Club is going to be happening on Tuesday the 25th.
25th. Thank you. It starts at 12:15, goes till 1 o'clock. Great for if you're working. No registration required. This week we are talking about biographies, so any biography that you've read, we can talk about.
Evil Genius in Amherst on the same afternoon, the 25th at 3 o'clock. Wednesday the 26th in Oxford, they're having their Frozen Frenzy. That's hard to say. Mm-hmm. River Hibbert is making penny spinners. On the 27th, which is Thursday, there's a bunch of programs going on. Domino Derby in Advocate, Marvelous Magnets in Spring Hill, and Button Maker Blitz in Parsboro. Julie really likes alliteration.
So, if you want to find out what we're doing in any of our branches, go to our website,
www.cumberlandpubliclibraries.ca,
and follow us on the Facebook, the Twitter, and the Instagram. What are we talking about next week?
Next week, we're talking about my favorite podcasts.
Woo! See you next week.
My 2 Favorite Librarians. Brought to you by Copper Tree Boutique in Dales Grand Market, located in beautiful, historic downtown Amherst.